Hafide, welcome to D18 Tonight. We pick up the pace heading straight into the general election. With us tonight are two senatorial candidates who made it through to the next round. Republicans Harold Cruz and Democrat Adolpho Palacios. Thank you both for joining us. And of course, gentlemen, both for this round, there'll be a lot of questions coming in to our viewers on social media. But first, let's get straight to it. A lot to compare when it comes to these two candidates, as you were telling me, both from Ora Chalampago. Yes. We have some rivalry going on here, but then also have experience with public safety. So let's not shy away from the question. Straight to it, we've seen the headlines that have been dominating the talk all afternoon with the Lieutenant Governor, Ray Tenorio. I want to get your thoughts and insights, both as a law enforcement experienced man. We'll start with you, Harold.
Well, hopefully, Nick, thank you for inviting me to the D18. I am from the village of Orange Champago, and just to clarify your question, you wanted a comment from...
Yeah, just how the situation's unfolding with the Lieutenant Governor. We're seeing that misdemeanor charges have come out, and he's been summoned to appear in court.
Well, you know, Nick, first off, the people need to understand that justice is blind. So, although he was served with a summons and a complaint, we hope that this case against Lieutenant Governor Guam, who's a very honorable man, is not tried in the court of public opinion. You know, justice is blind, so we hope and pray that it takes its course to the judicial system, and if it comes to it, that he be judged by a jury of his peers, and we hope for the best for him and his family.
Senator.
Well, I'm not going to talk about the legality of it, but based on training and practice within the government of Guam, in the Guam Police Department, whenever a person is armed, and I'm sure that the firearms is loaded, there's absolutely no touching of that gun except the person upon whom the gun is, I mean, the person that possesses the gun, that has the gun. And in this case, based on, I guess, the media presentation is that the police officer supposedly is armed at that moment, and so that to remove such a gun without notice to the officer, to me, is not the way that we are taught in the police academy, and we don't even. Anytime a gun is loaded, like I said, only the holder of that gun is authorized to hold that gun. So I guess the conclusion of the investigators and probably the Attorney General's office is that there's a misdemeanor violation of reckless conduct and so forth. Mm-hmm. Normally, reckless conduct is like the possession of a gun and the display of such a handgun for no purpose at all. Is probably falls under the definition of, I guess, they call reckless conduct, but the action itself is not according to the teaching of the police academy. That's what I can say.
But if I can add, though, you know, you have to probably have been there to actually in that setting to know what really happened. Mm-hmm. I'm not disputing any reports that were written by the men in blue. It might have been maybe just a poor judgment, but I don't believe that there was any intent on behalf of the Lieutenant Governor to commit a crime.
Sure.
So, you know, there's a difference between actual intent to commit a crime and just maybe poor judgment. And like I said, because justice is blind, I think we should just let it take its course in the judicial system, and see what happens.
And of course, we'll see how that all plays out.
I pray for him.
And what about sticking with crime? We've seen more of these videos of riots and fights have been circulating just in the last week. Do you think that something needs to be done at the legislative level to make the laws a bit tougher when it comes to what we're seeing out there in the community?
Me first? Okay. Well, as you know, 6 months ago when I decided to run for senator, one of my main priority issue was to address the compact treaty, the COFA agreement with FAA, with the Federal States of Micronesia, in which I, based on the economic and social crisis Guam has faced with for the past 3 decades, that I am actually calling for a moratorium on COFA, on Compact Treaty. Guam is owed over $1 billion in financial aid for Compact Impact. And now that all these videos are surfacing, and my fight, let it be clear that I love my brothers and sisters from our neighboring islands. And my issue is not with any particular race, but it's with the federal government who should have created some programs for these citizens who migrate to Guam before they even step on our island. And we can discuss it even further.
Okay.
Right.
Senator?
You know, if I were to address those issues, I think we have to touch on the court systems that such cases would have to be, I guess, put in on expedited prosecution or with the AG's office. There should be a coordination. In fact, one of the pressing issues that I like to address if I were to be elected is to increase the staffing of the courts and the Attorney General's office, because all this delay in prosecution, you know that for punishment to be most effective is that you have to mete out the punishment as close to the event, to the misconduct as possible. Mm-hmm. The longer it takes, the more diminished would be the effect of such ultimate punishment if it were to be meted out. So what's happening now is that sometimes no prosecution would take place until maybe a year, just before the expiration of the statute of limitation, or 2 years. And so people that have been released on bail, again, committed a crime, even before the first crime is, I guess, prosecuted. To me, the problem can be mitigated right there, and so that it, you know, and we have the evidence. All these are evidence now. The police work is become more efficient with that, because you don't have to write much report, present the evidence. So it's the prosecution side, and then of course the ultimate trial at the courts. I think that should be strengthened up.
All right, we definitely have more.
But if I may add though, because the Compact Impact is not being fully funded, and our government is owed over $1 billion. It has a very draining effect on our educational system. Just imagine since 1986, the enrollment into GDOE is at almost 8,000 kids. A 25%. They make up 25% of the school population.
and that did lead me to my next question about talking with you.
And then if you look at stats, one more.
We'll
stat.
definitely want to get more to that. We just have to take a quick break, Harold. But
okay,
I did want to talk more about youth and the violence that we've been seeing from the Guam Police Department. Them definitely putting the notice out there that a lot of them have involved our youngsters. So we'll get to that question in a moment. Stay tuned. D18 continues after the break.
Thank you.
Where can you find a burger inspired by flavors from near and far that mixes the smoky with the sass of the South? Combines the sweetness of summer with the tang of the country for savory, sizzling, unexpected flavors. Well, You can find it at McDonald's. The new Bacon Smokehouse Burger. It's the newest flavor of the signature crafted recipes by McDonald's.
The Down Syndrome Association of Guam exists to support families of individuals with Down syndrome. We're a group of parents who have children with Down syndrome and know the joys and challenges of raising them. For more information about the health, development, and education of a child or adult with Down syndrome, please contact Vicky Ariola at 472-6114.
Welcome back to D18 Tonight. We're taking your questions on our Facebook Live. With us in studio, your senatorial candidates, Republican Harold Cruz and Democratic candidate Senator Adolpho Palacios. How are you doing?
Thank you.
Fine.
I'm doing fine.
So we'll get back to the discussion we were having. It has to do with violence and involving our youth in the community. The Guam Police Department putting a notice out there about how we see more and more of these crimes as our kids have been getting back into the classroom. Is there anything that can be done on the policy level?
Well, as I was saying before the break, Nick, and stats that I cite come from this book right here. Mm-hmm. It's the report from Bureau of Stats and Plans. It's a 2016 report, and just some numbers that are very, very alarming, and it has to do with the violence that we're seeing. Is that in 2016, the Guam Police Department made 4,126 arrests, of which 1,297 of them were FAA citizens. Now, that's 32% of the arrestees were citizens from the FAS, and they make up 17% of Guam's population.
Okay.
So when I say that there's not only an economic problem, we also have a social problem. And a lot has to do with maybe alcohol abuse, cultural shock.
Right. Again, I just want to get straight to it. So then what would you do if elected?
Well, first off, my proposal is to place a moratorium on the compact treaty. Okay. You know, an analogy I will use is that if your car is broken, right, you hear a clunking noise in your car, one, you got to stop driving it, or two, you take it to a mechanic shop and they test drive it, and they test drive it slow till they find the problem, right? We have symptoms of a very great problem that our island is facing with citizens from the compact treaty. So what we need to do is slow it down, right? If there's 100 people coming in every day in a plane, maybe we should only allow 20 until the federal government addresses the root of the problem, which is one, it could be alcohol abuse, it could be culture shock, like I mentioned earlier.
Saying, right?
You know, and they just don't understand our laws or no respect for the culture. Okay. But something needs to be done, and the issue, what I want to do is bring the right people to the table, and at least start the discussion.
Okay, Senator Palacios.
Well, my perception of this problem is actually I'm looking at not necessarily from outside sources, from the FSM, but in general, talking about the crime issue. In fact, one of two major issues that I like to tackle if I were to be elected is the public safety and the criminal justice systems. At this point, I know that every agency within the criminal justice systems is actually understaffed, is weakened by the constraint of budgets. And I would say that, you know, three elements have to come together in order for crime to occur, Nick. And that's, first, there has to be a desire to commit the crime. They has to have the ability to commit that crime. And then the person has to have the opportunity to commit the crime. Now, you attack any one of these tripod, any leg that you can disable, you would prevent crime. To prevent crime, then you must have visibility. Visibility of police officers, of law enforcement officers, of regulatory officers. You have to have visibility. And with that, of course, you diminish the desire to commit that crime. Right. At the same time, of course, let us come together and where the big source of misconduct coming through, of crime coming through, in this case, I think we can estimate that it is from people who are not accustomed to our culture, and there's a cultural conflict when they come in. We have to educate those people in terms of coordination with their delegate, or I think the representative here, official representative. they don't call them ambassador, but for the lack of a better term,
Gotcha.
they have an office here. I'm sure that we can coordinate that, and those that are wanting to travel here should also be given an orientation from a point of departure coming here. That make it some kind of condition that you understand this and this, before you qualify to travel. That way you minimize and prepare this person for the adjustments in the way we live here in Guam.
Yeah.
And that would help.
Proposals definitely also mean money, and that's something I want to talk to you guys the next side of the break. When D18 Tonight continues, we'll have more on that. Keep it here.
Self-storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
Well, welcome back to D18 Tonight. We're going to get right back to the questions here. We were on a topic when it involves crime around our island and what can be done to try and cap some of that. But now we want to talk a little bit about funding and a lot of the resources that would have to go into effect to cap off some of these issues that we've been seeing. And so if elected into the legislature, what would you do to come up with a balanced budget?
Nick, that's the second major issue actually on my platform, public safety and the finances of the government of Guam. Now, government of Guam is owed over $100 million in receivables. That's what I heard. And I think that that's true. And it has to do with uncollectible debts owed to the government. I like to look at an alternate source of revenue. We have to engage in aggressive collection. We have to find out what is the issue here. Why is it the government of Guam has not have the ability to collect these debts that it owns at that point? Let us look at the tax incentives and the tax credits, the qualifying certificate. Those are, I call, leaks in our revenue stream that can be plugged. Those monies can be had by the government, but there are exemptions. I want to re-examine that if I'm elected to see if we can improve that or suspend some of those programs, because maybe it has cured the need that for which it was passed 20 years ago, and now probably we can suspend that for now. But definitely we have to look for an alternate source, because that is the issue right here. And hopefully I will support any legislation for government spending cuts. We can cut government spending, but we have to assess where we can cut. But definitely there can be cuts within the government of Guam. That too, we have to look at the priorities of spending of the government of Guam. We have to look at what we bring in, and we have to look at what comes out. And in any budget balancing, you have to identify your current income, your fixed income, and your fixed expenditures. And you see how you can balance that. And then, of course, you work with that. But definitely, you cannot continue to spend over what you can collect. You always be on deficit, and you always be in a bind. And that's not a good practice.
Well, that's very, very technical. I go back, Nick, to the COFA funding. When you're owed $1 billion, we're going to find ourselves in a very, very economic crisis. The hospital alone is owed $109 million since 2003 for free services provided to citizens from the FAA. That's a lot of money. We have so many unfunded federal mandates like EITC that comes out of our government coffers that we no longer can afford. what does that do to our budget process in our entire government? It takes money where it's needed, where it should be, to fund these unfunded mandates that the federal government promises to, that they impose upon us. Now, and like I alluded to earlier, our school system has an increase of 25% enrollment from FAA citizens, and we are not getting the proper funding to fund education. So I go back to the $1 billion that is owed to our government by the U.S. Congress. So I say we have, in a few months, we're going to have a new elected Attorney General, a new governor, right? A new U.S. delegate to Congress, and a set of 8 new senators at the most. So I say that we petition the U.S. Congress to own up, as a one Guam approach.
Yeah, have the feds get involved.
Let's own up. Pay us our money. I heard recently that Attorney General Barry Anderson submitted some grant that will figure out the formula to submit to Department of Interior. That way it can speed up the process, and maybe it helps on the way. But right now we need to slow the process of the compact of COFA, what COFA has done to our island over the past 3 decades.
All right, thanks for that response. And we definitely saw a lot of our senators this time around trying to find ways to take from other agencies to pull for education, so that's something that we definitely want to avoid, so that other government agencies, I'm sure, don't feel the brunt or
definitely
aren't given the short stick. Well, don't go anywhere, because D18, we have another round going on, followed by questions on the after party.
A beautiful, healthy smile is an expression of confidence. The more confident you are about your smile, the more likely you are to fully express your feelings without having to worry about the way your teeth look.
Before cosmetic dentistry, I didn't smile as much. I didn't have the confidence, and it shows. And since I've had cosmetic dentistry done, I feel 10 times more confident. I make my initial introduction with a nice big smile and a handshake, and I just feel like it really is a relationship builder, a nice warm smile, and it makes the clients and customers feel more comfortable with you, feeling confident, and they feel that you're not just there for business, that you're also there kind of as a friend as well. So I mean, it's amazing how powerful a smile can be. A good smile.
Since your smile makes a significant impression on those around you, it is important that it makes the impression you want it to make.
Well, thank you to our candidates for joining us here. Of course, we have one more round of questions to get to. And the first thing I want to go off, just since you both have the experience in law enforcement, is with the local prison. They've been through a lot this past year, the past couple of years. What do you think, or what would you do if elected to fix things over there when it comes to just giving proper manning and equipment and what they need?
You know, Nick, when I was in the legislature, I actually submitted a proposal for a new prison system. So we even identify a location somewhere near Jonia that's actually supposed to be one of the landfill, so supposedly was owned by the government of Guam. Now, the prison facility that we have right now in Manila is about 50 years old. And it's built to house maybe like 400 inmates and detainees. Now it's housing almost 800. Imagine that. And that's 50 years ago. That's an obsolete building. But at the same time, I guess we have to come up with some innovative approach to minimizing the confinement, and the courts have been very good in developing programs such as alternative sentencing, deferred plea, and counseling and other things. But still, we need, you know, that the standard ratio for correction officer to prison population is about 6 to 1 or 7 to 1. The Department of Correction is experiencing 20 to 1. Now, these officers are under, I mean, the department is undermanned and it's overworked, and definitely we need more officers. At the same time, we have to look at the methods of operation there. How can we make it better? Because, you know, there are what is called best practice nowadays that we can probably copy or follow, you know. But definitely we need to look at the prison system. We need an expanded systems and also programs of alternative sentencing, alternative confinement, and those things to minimize that. Because when you put so many people there with those kind of attitude, then there's bound to be some continued conflict
that build
inside.
up the costs in the long run. Harold?
And you know, go ahead.
Well, Nick, you know, I totally agree that the system up there is very antiquated. It's very old. They're just, where are we going to find the money to build a new prison? I don't know. It's been a systemic problem in our government for one of the longest times. We have great people that are working inside the walls up at the prison. They're doing their best. We try to provide them as much equipment and funding as possible, as much as our budget allows. They're in a very difficult situation, and I feel sorry for the officers that work up there. Yeah. What's the answer? Does our government need to go into float another bond to build another prison? That might be one of the maybe only alternatives left. But
one of the options we'll have to see, and it'll be definitely the task that the two of you will have to.
And then we leave it to the future generations, our kids and our grandkids to pay for it, which is something we don't want to do.
Definitely never.
But you know, we can just I hope and pray.
That's the best we have right now, and we've run all out of time. Harold, Senator Palacios, thank you both so much for joining us on D18 Tonight. Of course, you can put your comments, and these guys can get back to them in our comment stream on Facebook Live.
By the way, I'm #1 on the Republican ballot.
There you go. Your number?
Number 12.
There you go. We'll see you guys in November. Stick around on a Facebook live stream. D18, the after party, is up next.
Furniture provided by Furniture Kathy Style. Men's wardrobe by Royal Bix.